foot shift linkage control blah blah kit something or another. Today we're going to show you guys how to install the Sling Shot Foot Shift Control. In this demonstration we are working with a panhead frame, but this control will bolt onto any Harley-Davidson Big Twin frame that has your standard 3-hole mounting pattern. When you get the kit from us, you're going to have a control that looks like this, a black rubber peg, a nut that goes on the back side of the rubber peg, 3 3/8 bolts, and 4 5/16 bolts with corresponding washers. The only tools you're going to need for installing this, handy dandy red Loctite, 7/32 Allen, 3/16 Allen, and a 1/2 inch open end wrench. When you get this from us, this 5/16 bolt does not come with Loctite on it. And the reason we do that is because a lot of people want to take this assembly apart to either get it powder coated, chromed, or polished. So first thing you do is remove this bolt using a 3/16 Allen. Go ahead and put a dab of Loctite on that. We don't want to forget that. And then snug it. Next thing we're going to do is put a dab of Loctite on the rest of these. Red Loctite is super strong, doesn't require much. Oh, as well as a nut. Go ahead and do that too. Grab your first 3/8 bolt, stick it through this hole, and your 7/32 Allen. Thread it into your frame. And I don't tighten this one all the way tight yet. I just snug it so that way I can still rotate this backing plate to get these other 2 bolts in. It's still just snugging, not tightening. Now that these 3 bolts are installed, I'm gonna go back and tighten them. We don't have a torque spec, use Loctite. The torque spec is Loctite. The next thing we're gonna do is install your stock Jiffy stand. So our backing plate comes tapped already for a stock Jiffy stand. So I'm gonna grab one of those 5/16 bolts and just get it started. The same thing over here. What is this piece called?
The thingy-mabobber.
Yeah, this thingy-mabobber spring holder. So the spring on this bike is pretty worn out. Typically what you'll have to do is remove this top nut and then remove this tab. So this tab is blocking the kickstand from moving forward. And then but once you remove this tab, you can rotate the kickstand all the way forward, frees up all of your spring length to get these other 2 bolts in. Again, this spring is pretty shot out, so I don't need to do that, but you guys probably will. So just snugging all 4 of these 5/16 bolts. I'm gonna go back and get some jig tension on it with Loctite. Last thing we need to do to finish the install for like the actual control itself is to put the shifter peg on. I don't put any Loctite on the threads of the shifter peg. I only put it on this nut. So I'll hand tighten the peg on there. But since this has Loctite on it, this will actually be what you can apply like torque to. That way if you ever have to remove it, the peg itself isn't Loctited into this lever. Take your 1/2 inch open wrench, tighten the jam nut. Foot shift kit fully installed. Now, if you have FL or an FX transmission, 4-speed transmission, we do sell this linkage. It's a direct bolt on. So when you get the Sling Shot Shift Linkage from us, it's gonna have 2 different size ends on it. So one longer end and one shorter end. You can really run it whichever way you want. I can guarantee you it fits if you run the longer forked end at the transmission side and the shorter end at the control side. So the first thing I'm gonna do is attach the longer forked end to the transmission. And so it just slips over this tab here, insert a pin. And once you get that in, you're gonna put a washer on the back side as well as a cotter pin through the hole. Don't forget that, or else obviously the pin will come out. The next thing I'm gonna do is just attach it on this end. You may have to rotate the arm a bit to get all this to fit in the line right. So I kind of leave these jam nuts loose. That way I can come back and rotate things. But that feels pretty good in that orientation. Come back, put this pin through. Same thing, washer on the back side and then a cotter pin through. I'm not gonna put it in just for the demonstration purposes, but don't forget that. But that's it. This is our Sling Shot Foot Shift Control as well as our Sling Shot Foot Shift Linkage installed. Very easy thing to do, available on our website. Siri, how do I kickstart a motorcycle? It just pulls up links. She doesn't tell me.